Some of your books, like the Prison Diaries, have also sort of been critically acclaimed. Tell me a little bit, Jeffrey, like sort of living in solitary confinement. How did that shape your thinking, understanding, and your writing? Did you see any when you read yourself dispassionately? Do you see a sort of difference between those early 2000 years and in the past?
Well, I think 5 books came out of that, so it wasn't totally wasted. And I think what I learnt most was how privileged I'd been and how lucky I'd been and how I could return to my family, I could return to a wonderful life. And yes, I met many interesting people. I would say A Prisoner of Birth, for example, as a book, was totally influenced by that period in my life. And I learnt a lot from it.
In fact, there's an unverified story, where Picasso was asked to raise some money to help the Russian writers who were languishing in jail, to bring them out. Picasso said, I don't want to do that because I think being in jail brings the best out of them. Do you agree with that somewhere? Because you're able to spend more time in solitary confinement. Picasso, unverified story.
I find that very hard to believe, because he hated the Germans, and during the Second World War didn't leave them in any doubt what he thought about them.
Picasso, just say it.
Indulge me for a while. I indulge you.
All right. So does it? Does it really affect you?
Any experience in life that you can have, whether it be travel, whether it be meeting interesting people, whether it's an exciting event, something that can only add to your life's experience. Picasso, if he said it, and I don't believe he did, yes, I agree with that. But he fought his entire life, Picasso, to help people in trouble. I've indulged you.
In a fractured world, what we were talking about, what sort of a role do you think India can play?
India is very important at the moment, and sometimes underestimates its own importance. Not only are you a vast country and population, but you now have a very large educated class, and it's getting larger. What I would call the middle class is getting larger all the time. And for example, the role you play in Britain is very important indeed. Indians are holding high political positions now, and their status has been totally established. In the world, well, you're on the world stage, and you mustn't underestimate your position in it.
What was your perception of Prime Minister Modi since you met him in London?
I thought he was charming, clearly a very well-educated man, and deep thinking. I got the impression this was a man who thinks very carefully before he does anything. This is a cool Jude. I mean, he'll not jump into anything. And I think when the world is going mad, it's not a bad thing to have someone who's very careful and cautious and clever.
Well, you may have read about it. Very recently, the government decided that to sort of do away with 500 and 1,000 rupee notes, which has created, quite a lot of alarm, and many people are actually going through a lot of hardship. But the fact is, people credit him for the boldness of the move. So therefore, and many say that that is the sort of prime minister we needed, who could, because a lot of times consensus building had become an excuse for inaction.
Yes.
And that is what he's now trying to address.
Well, it's certainly, I loath to speak in your country, or indeed even in mine, on your politics. And so I've only read about it and listened to what people have to say. We will only find out in time whether it was a good move. Unquestionably, you're right, Ron. It was a bold move, and it was a bold move by a very clever man who'd clearly thought it through.
Right. Before we wrap this up, Jeffrey, we'll play a small game where I'm going to sort of say something, and you have to respond to me immediately. Whatever the first thing that comes to your mind, you have to respond. All right? So this is not like you're writing where you sit back, think, reflect, and write. This is the first thing that comes on the top of your mind. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Awesome. All right. Cricket.
England beating India.
But today, India beat England.
Today we've been killed
by 258 runs, which is, by the way, the highest.
When I think of
second
cricket,
highest margin.
I'm not surprised. But there's a weakness here. We did very well in the first Test match. We won the toss. You've beaten us in the second Test match. You've won the toss. They're two very even teams, in my view. But I would like to say something about Indian cricket, because I've followed it for a very, very long time. And you talked about your role in the world. I have met some of the finest gentlemen in this country who play cricket. Rahul Dravid, Kumble, VVS Laxman, and of course Sachin Tendulkar. Not only giants of cricket, but actually giants of good manners and moral
Gentle
standing.
giants.
They are. I think they're four of the finest men I've ever come into contact with. I don't like sledging. I don't like rudeness on the pitch, and I certainly don't like cheating. I thought when Kumble was in Australia, for those of you who really follow cricket, I thought when Kumble was in Australia, Ponting behaved disgracefully, and Kumble didn't react. He behaved like the gentleman he is, and your nation can be very proud of that, because you came out of it a damn sight better than the Australians.
Yeah, though we lost that series 2-1, but I
yes,
think we
but
won
some of
many
us
more
remember VVS Laxman and Roald Dravid surviving all day against the Australians and then beating them on the next
therefore,
day.
does that concern you, that the new breed of cricketers in India, like led by Virat Kohli, are far more aggressive? You think,
I don't like it, and I'd be foolish to pretend I do. Mind you, I think your number 3, 4 and 5 batsmen are as good as anybody on earth at the moment. They are. I thought, we've got rid of you, Sachin. Go away, Dravid. Shove off, VVS. And along come 3 more who are just as good.
All right. Brexit.
I got that wrong too. I voted to remain. My wife voted to come out. So we were a divided family, as were many families in Britain. But that's it. The people decided.
One thing Jeffrey Archer cannot live without. You're taking too much time.
Yes, one thing I can't live without. If I couldn't ever... There's 2 things, really. If I couldn't ever write again, I wouldn't know why I was alive. And if I couldn't see another cricket match at Lord's, I'd feel the same way. Those are the 2 loves of my life, are the privilege of being able to write, the privilege of coming to a country like this and seeing the millions of people who clearly read the books very seriously indeed. But then I get the same pleasure when I'm sitting at Lord's watching a great test match.
Critics.
You've got to live with them. Some of them are envious. Some of them do know what they're talking about. The good ones you learn from. You learn from someone who writes a serious comment on your books, and you take something away from it. You don't learn from someone who so clearly either 1, hasn't read the book, or 2, is just jealous. That you learn nothing from at all.
And author Jeffrey Archer thinks is his equal?
Equal? Oh, there are so many people who are better than I am. I mean, my heroic legend would be Dumas. I think The Count of Monte Cristo is a masterpiece. Dickens, of course.
I mean, in this age, I mean...
You must never, never, never compare yourself with anyone who's still alive. I do my thing. They do their thing. And I don't do sex. I don't do violence. I don't do bad language. I don't do hobgoblins. I don't do ghosts. Stick with what... I say to young writers in this country, do what you know. Think of R.K. Narayan and the fact that he did such simple stories in villages in India. If you're any good, everyone will want to read them.
Florentina Rozanowski, who became the first woman U.S. president in 1982.
Yes, yes, pathetic. What are those Americans up to? I told them we've got 4 countries in Great Britain: England, Ireland, Scotland, and Wales, Northern Ireland, and Wales. 3 of our leaders are women. Wake up, America.
Finally, Donald Trump.
Wait and see. It would be grotesquely unfair to make a judgment when he hasn't even held the office. If I come back next year, Ron, ask me that question again, because I suspect you won't need to ask it, because you'll know the answer.
Jeffrey Archer, thank you very much.
Good
it was
to see
a
you,
pleasure
Ron.
and an honor to do this with you. Thank you very much for taking our time.
Indeed.
Well, that was a special with Jeffrey Archer. Many thanks for watching. We'll be back again. Goodbye.